Welcome to Canine Codes puppy class number 3. Today I'm going to talk about what to do when you start taking your dog out and about in the off-leash dog park. I'm here with Chili and I'm going to start off with giving you a great routine for how to develop a reliable recall, meaning making your dog come when you call its name. So for a good recall, I'm using 3 different little strategies. The first one is to bring really good treats. So something like Devon sausage is not at all healthy, but very effective. My rule is that if the treat is coming with me to the park, it has to have come from the fridge. So that means something fresh. It could be Devon, could be ham, chicken, cheese, anything you've got in there that is better than anything your dog gets at any other time. When you recall your dog in the park, I want the dog to see that as an opportunity to get something better than what it ever gets at any other time. Before I let Chili go, I'm going to let him know that I've got something amazing with me. So I'm just going to do a quick focus command, which will create some eye contact and some connection so he remembers I'm here, and then I'm going to give him the good treat as a reward. So I put the treat on Chili's lips just to get him interested. Stand up with a gasp, drawing it up to my eyelashes, and yes, for getting good eye contact, and then I give him a treat. Good. So now he knows that I've got good stuff with me. At this point, I will pretend that I'm taking the leash off, and I like to just put the treat on his lips, just so he doesn't really quite realize that I'm rustling with the leash. And if you're not quite confident in letting your leash off yet, maybe it's your first time, then just let the leash dangle on the ground instead of actually clipping it off. At this point, I run away. This way! And when he runs with me, if he overtakes, I run the other way. If he runs up to me, I give him a treat. I run away. Chili! Chili! Oh, good boy. So if he runs up to my legs, I stop and give him a treat. I can call him over on my shoulder. Yay! This way! This way! This way! But I don't ever stop and beg, because Chili is if I'm just coming to grab him and stop the fun. Come on! Yay! Yay! Good boy. Now, because another dog has run up to us, I don't need to interrupt that. They came up to us, so it's fine. I'll just let him say hello. And I'm not the slightest worried, even though this dog that ran up to us is big and heavy, maybe even boisterous. I'm not worried because I can see that she's got a loose spine, she's playful, and although she could end up being a bit heavy and boisterous for Chili, at this moment, there's definitely nothing going on. They're taking play breaks, they're taking turns, and now they're sniffing together. That's great bonding. All signs that she's a really friendly and easygoing social dog. Okay, so I'm going to start walking up towards other dogs now with Chili, but just before he commits to running off to them, I'm going to persuade him to come with me. Chili! Yes, very good. And he gets a treat for that. Every time I can make him change his mind and follow me away from other dogs, the recall, Chili, becomes stronger and stronger. As you can see, I've employed my little squeaky toy dolphin to help me. It's just an easy way of getting Chili's attention without needing to yell out loud. Shouting out Chili in an assertive voice is not actually very attractive. And I need to be able to compete with all the rest of the fun in this pack. So Squeaky Dolphin does a much better job than an angry voice. Good boy. Good boy. At some point, I'll get so close that I know that I can't call him back, and that's okay. At that point, I just let him go say hi. It's worth remembering that your dog not coming back when you call is not the same thing as them actually running away and disappearing into the distance. It's two very different things. And them not coming back instantly is okay. But running away in the distance is very, very rare. Only beagles and huskies and Afghans and other breeds that are specifically bred to run off into the distance would naturally do that. If your dog has developed a habit of shying away when you reach out to get them and not letting themselves get caught, practice to hold out a hand stretched out towards your dog, palm up towards the sky, lower than your dog's nose, then turn off your attention from here and make them aware of your treat this way. Use the treat to lure them all the way into your personal space, and once they're past your empty hand, then you start bringing it to life and you tickle them and rub them around their collar while they're picking out the treat from your other hand, so that they get used to you touching them, but perhaps even stopping the exercise by pushing them away and walking off. In that way, they learn that it's safe to come to you to get a treat when you call them, that it doesn't mean that we're going home or that I'm stopping the fun, and they'll let me touch their collar. Of course, they'll never know when it's the last time that I do it and when we are going home. A lot of dogs really don't like that you reach over their head to rub their neck straight away, especially if they don't know you. But even if you have a little terrier or some other sort of shy dog, then they won't like it. And when you reach for them in the pack, it's a good idea to, instead of going like this, where it feels like you're catching them, instead just reach out your hand, bring them in, touch them on the chest first, sudden. And then it feels much better and safer for them. When you bring extraordinarily good treats to the pack, then don't give any to anyone else's dogs. If they're begging for treats from you, then you shouldn't really be rewarding it. And if you do, their owner will completely lose control of their dog. You also don't know if they perhaps have food aggression or food allergies, so best keep your own treats to yourself. If you get food enthusiastic dogs jumping on you because they can smell your good treats, then just put your knee up high to stop them from actually hurting you. Something that often comes as a surprise to the students in my puppy classes is that I absolutely don't condone playing ball with your dog. Throwing a tennis ball has become very, very common since those long plastic chukar arms came onto the market, and it has made people play ball much more than they ever used to before. The more you play a certain game with your dog, the more it wants to play it. So although your dog might only have a very, very moderate interest in tennis balls at the moment, the more you play with them, the more it catches on, and quite quickly, especially for puppies, you'll get to a tipping point where suddenly you're no longer in control. Every time you come to the dog park, your puppy will be pestering you to throw the ball. And if you fall into that trap, you are now just feeding an addiction. That urge for chasing the ball becomes stronger and stronger, and eventually supersedes the value of getting a treat, which means you'll struggle to use a treat to get a good recall. And then eventually it also supersedes the drive to play and socialize with other dogs. So now your dog is starting to be antisocial. And because, if you remember, socializing with strangers isn't natural to your dog, it will eventually revert to nature and become so antisocial that it could also start becoming growly and somewhat aggressive towards other dogs when they come near your dog's precious ball. Furthermore, what can then happen is that your dog's antisocial behavior and reactivity worsens to the point where it will even show up when they're on leash on the street. And if you make the rookie mistake to go out and throw the ball on a cold winter morning before your dog has warmed up, then you could also have a cruciate ligament operation to pay for. I can't express strongly enough how much I recommend that you avoid all ball play. I know you might know people who say it's the best thing they've ever done for their dog and that it hasn't developed into a problem, but each dog is different. And in my experience as a canine behaviorist who is constantly out there in the dog park, it more often becomes a problem than not, especially when the dog gets addicted to the ball as a puppy. Just like if a 50-year-old man got addicted to playing computer games, it wouldn't change his personality so much as it would change a young man's personality if he got addicted already at 11 years of age. So if I was you, I would throw away all balls that are the size and shape of a tennis ball, only play moderately with larger balls, if at all, and definitely not play with toys in the dog park, particularly not when there are other dogs around. It's better to just keep them out of the game right from the start. If you have a Kelpie or a Border Collie, it can be really hard to keep them away from ball obsession. Almost impossible. Well, it is as it is. I'd still like you to go to the dog park, but the longer you can keep them out of ball obsession, the older they get before they become addicted, the better the end result, even if they do get addicted. If your dog steals another person's ball, the last thing you want to do is chase after your dog to get their ball back. Your dog would only realize just how much fun it is to be chased by you in the pack and how little chance you have of catching them. So instead, by all means, first look out for the owner, greet them, distract them a little so that they're not too busy getting their ball back. And especially if you turned your back to your dog, showing them that you have no interest in that ball, typically they'll just let it go pretty quickly. If not, pay attention to something else, like a little squeaky toy, or it could even be your shoelaces or a stick. Show them that there's something else much more valuable than the ball they stole. That will make them let go of the ball and go and pay attention to the thing that you're paying attention to instead. When you go to the dog park, it's good to know how to read different dogs' body language. The first thing I want you to know is that a wagging tail does not mean a happy dog. A wagging tail just means that the dog has a lot of adrenaline. It could be adrenaline of any sort. So rather than looking for a wagging tail, in order to assess whether a dog is happy, comfortable, trusting, and relaxed, I want you to look for the tension along their spine. So right from the crown of their head, down along the spine, to their tail, you want to ask yourself, is it relaxed? For most dogs, when they are completely relaxed, you'll see that their head is hanging low with a goofy face. And if they wag their tail, then their spine is so relaxed that the whole back moves when they wag. Try to look for the older golden retrievers in the pack. They usually demonstrate this happy behavior perfectly. Now, terriers and other more highly strung dogs, they're never kind of really relaxed in their body. They're always a little bit of stiff. And they'll typically walk into the pack with their chest puffed up, their energy is a little higher, they're up on their tiptoes, and because they're more tense and stiff along the back, their movements become more jerky. A little bit like young men down on St. Kilda Promenade in the summer in their sleeveless t-shirt, sort of posing and putting on a bit of an attitude. Now, although this behavior is breed specific, so is being more assertive to exactly those breeds. Assertive body language, assertive by nature. If I see a dog that's bouncy, stiff and jerky like that. And typically from where the dog, when it was relaxed, the head was hanging low and the tail was hanging low. Now head and tail have gone up, and instead of being a flat line along the top of the dog, it's now more of a U shape between crown, back and tail. I'm not worried as long as the assertive dog is still moving. So whether it's walking or sniffing and greeting, if it's moving, I know that it is still just investigating and checking out your dog. The thing I really want to pay attention to is whether a dog at any point gets stiff and still. So typically from having been jerky and assertive and puffy, then they suddenly sort of go almost into slow motion and eventually still, because they're so stiff just before launching into an attack, or maybe it's just a smaller kind of telling off. Now, your puppy is going to get told off many times in the dog park, and please don't try to prevent that. It's necessary for your puppy to learn the manners of the dog park. If you try to shelter them from it, then it will only get older and bigger while it still has obnoxious behavior, and then it will be told off much more harshly when it no longer has its youthful puppy pass of forgiveness with the older dogs. So a little is perfectly okay. But of course, if your puppy completely misses the beat and it is a very grumpy dog, then yes, it could lose its self-control and really decide to tell your puppy off too harshly. It happens, but it only happens very rarely. Simply because these dogs, they go to the dog park every day. They've seen it all before. They know how to assert themselves to a puppy, and they also know how to do it without needing to go overboard. My summary is, if you're going to the dog park, the one thing that you want to keep an eye out for is a dog that is stiff along the spine and still at the same time. Particularly, you'll find that if they are turning their eyes in a different direction from their face, then they are probably trying to say, ooh, stay away from me, or even worse, oh, if you don't get away from me, you'll get a nip now. If you see a dog going stiff and still and you're worried about how it might react to your puppy next, then immediately clap, drop your leash next to them, walk into their hip, or use a little squeaky toy to make them look at you, turning their heads away and leaving behind the intense moment that they were having with your puppy. You'll be amazed how many little tiffs can be avoided just by ripping the dogs out of the attention to each other and straight to you instead. Meeting other dogs in the dog park could go in many different directions. At first, your puppy is likely to be a little intimidated. For that, just offer them a space between your legs here where they can run to for safety. So I crouch down, give them a space, and if there were other dogs around us right now, I'd be encouraging Chili to just sit here and let me have his back. If other dogs come up that for whatever reason intimidate him, then I can put up an arm to just say, hey, this is our space. And it's perfectly okay to just push the other dog back a little bit. Yeah, and here you go. This one I can see is friendly. She's got a low head, she's got a relaxed back. We're not worried at all. But Chili is a little bit of a wimp, so he would like some space right now. If my puppy is the one who's boisterous, I like to grab them by the hips and just hold them back, making sure that they can't overwhelm the other dog. If I take a bit of weight off his back legs, then he won't be able to lunge forward at them. Jessica! So if I think the situation is getting too intense, but it's not yet at all a fight, I'll just go and grab my puppy by the hips, pull him back, and then if I hold him back by this and the other dog keeps coming back for more, and still wants to play with my dog, I know that I can probably keep letting it go. If the other dog takes the opportunity to walk away, then I know that they'd probably rather stop the game. If I think that my dog is getting a bit over the top for another dog, I'll typically go, come on. Oh, he's being sneaky with me. When he's being a little sneaky and he doesn't want to get caught, don't try to reach up over his head. Reach under his chin and he'll feel less threatened. Hello, little one. Hello, little one. In this case, I used a little trick. I sort of grabbed hold of someone else's dog just so that I could get control of the situation. I'll of course just let her go if she wants to run off, but at least I got to stop the situation where my dog was being too much. Yeah, I can sit down like this, creating a space between my legs, which is a bit of a sanctuary for a more timid dog. So in this case, it's not even my dog. My dog was actually being a little bit over the top, but I gave the other dog a refuge, and that stopped the intense situation. If you have a small dog, chances are that sometimes you'll feel unsafe in the dog park and you'll want to get hold of your puppy. Ideally, you don't pick up your puppy in the dog park because larger dogs see it as a provocation that your puppy is so high up in comparison to them, and they'll want to jump up and rip your puppy out of your arms. They could get hold of your puppy's tail or their back feet, or even worse, your arm, and of course, as gravity forces them to get back down again, they could potentially tear open your arm. Scary stuff, I know, so it's important to know exactly how you're going to pick up your puppy, if at all you're going to do it. Firstly, I would grab my puppy, typically by the hips, and then put a hand on their tail and scoop in tail and back legs, and as you stand up, lift a high ninja knee, boom, and be ready to knee off the other dog as it's jumping up. Lift your leg nice and high and don't wait to see if the other dog jumps. Already as you're standing up, gaining your balance, boom, lift your knee up. Check that you've got that tail tucked in, boom, knee up again. The other dog might jump up several times. You might even find they take a break and then they start jumping again. Even if the dog they were interacting with doesn't jump up to try and get hold of your puppy, there could be a dog on a distance coming running, going, hey, what's that puppy doing up there? I'm going to tear it out of your arms. So you have to have an eye on the horizon as well as the dog in front of you. If things go really wrong, which they rarely do, but it can happen, then the last thing you would ever do in a dog fight would be to go and grab your dog by the collar, because the other dog will always in a fight try to bite your dog around the neck. Instead, you want to grab your dog as far away from the head as possible. So that means grabbing your dog at the back legs right here. This is his knee, so just above the knee. I'm closing my hand around the leg. I'm not just cupping, I'm closing my hand around the leg with my opposing thumbs. Then I lift his bum higher than his head and I will wheelbarrow him backwards. And you can see, if I keep walking him backwards like that, he can't get to bite my hands. Of course, he wouldn't want to bite my hands, but in the middle of a dog fight where he's frantically defending himself, he could just lose all rationale. When you practice this with your puppy at home, be aware that their hips are only young, so just grab them very gently and slowly, and just very gently walk 3-4 steps back, and then a bit of praise, and they'll get used to you doing that, and it won't be as confronting for them if you should ever need to use it in the dog park. Needless to say, it would be more effective to grab the attacking dog even if it isn't yours. But I would consider that quite hardcore and probably a little bit above most pet owners' skills. So just for safety, grab your own dog, wheelbarrow them backwards, and hopefully the other dog will just give up. In my experience, they often do, simply because they get so amazed that your dog is suddenly backing out of the fight. If I had to, I would use my leg to ward off the other dog. Many people are terrified that their puppies will have a bad experience in the dog park and get traumatized for life. It doesn't actually happen that easily. Once the dog has even just a little experience with meeting new dogs and playing around, then even if something bad happens, it doesn't create a trauma because they already know that the situation is safe at other times. The only time that you have to be vigilant and very careful with not creating a bad experience for your puppy is the very, very first time that something happens. So if this is your very, very first time in the dog park, you do want to be careful that your puppy doesn't have a bad experience. While it doesn't have any previous experience to compare with, it could form the wrong idea that it's not safe to play with other dogs. After your puppy has had a few plays and met a few stranger dogs, perhaps been to the dog park 2 or 3 times, you'll find that even if something bad happens, it doesn't affect your puppy for life or give them a major trauma. They'll just take it as one bad experience out of many good ones. So just holding a little safe space for him here. Yeah, good boy, I've got you. I've got you. If Chili was even smaller or even more intimidated, possibly if he didn't have muddy paws like this, I'd put him up on my knee and just give him a little bit of extra height when he's around the other dogs. I've mentioned the subject of dog fights in the park today, but I hope that I haven't scared you off. Running around freely in the park, playing with the other dogs, is one of the biggest opportunities your puppy will ever have for fun and joy. So I hope you won't deny them that. In addition to that, without taking your dog out and letting it off leash, you'll probably have big troubles keeping them from destroying the items in your house and putting holes in your children. No doubt it makes it a lot easier to manage your puppy's energy if they get rid of it in the dog park. It's also a wonderful opportunity to remind your puppy that they are not the biggest fish in the pond. There'll be other dogs there that are older and bigger and stronger and bolder, and that puts your dog back in its place.